Winning in the biotech industry or any deep tech industry is actually more than just having the very best IP. We've all seen situations where incredible IP has not lived up to its potential. Now, why is that? Sure, in some cases the science may have some flaw, but often it's a case of not having the right market analysis done to determine whether that IP was the fit for that product, for that solution, and that market. And this is where market analysis is incredibly important. Hi, I'm Yadvir Garva, a product manager in the biotech industry. And this particular video is all about market analysis, how you can conduct in the context of a deep tech company, and how you can successfully outmaneuver competitors, whether they be fellow small startups or even larger competitors as well. To that end, we're going to discuss 3 important topics on how we can conduct market analysis. And also stick around towards the end because I've got one final 4th bit of advice that's often overlooked and I think is really important. Let's start with the first method. Imagine that you have a biotech company that has a personalized medicine platform where patients log in and get some personalized reports. Now imagine in this scenario as well that you're finding your patient engagement is dropping over time. And now you're quite concerned. New competitors come to the market. What's going on? Are they shifting to them? Well, before you start looking at the competitors, what you first should really do is engage with your customers. And this is how you can do it in the following ways. Certainly, you should be able to talk to them one-on-one in terms of customer surveys and interviews and cohort analysis. But this is really important. What customers tell you and what they actually need may not always align. It's important to take any customer feedback seriously, but then actually validate what they're saying to what they're actually doing. So conduct a number of follow-up experiments so you can quickly test as reasonably as possible. For example, in this situation being an online platform, if they're requesting a report in a certain format and you're seeing that come through in the customer feedback by talking to them, and then what you can simply do is launch a subset feature to a cohort and test whether they engage with that or not. By ultimately talking to the customers, understanding more about them, what they do in their day-to-day lives, in terms of how they interact with your product, how they go about with other products, and actually validating it with very simple experiments. Even in a biotech industry context, you can launch something with a small cohort simply to get engagement. You're able to measure whether you're going to be successful in a larger scale deployment. And so being customer centric in the way of listening to customers and providing a feedback loop is very essential. Okay, so listening to customers and validating as best you can is incredibly important. But what happens if you're also in an industry that has a lot of competition? Let's just say you're in the point of care infectious disease market for diagnostics. We've seen a lot of these test and platform technologies come out in recent years, and for good measure. How you should go about ensuring successful in that? Well, the market analysis you need to do there is really determine in terms of what the competitive landscape is, how many competitors there are, and what is there in terms of make up the market. Is it fragmented or is it consolidated? So the way to do that is to use something called the HHI. What the HHI index does is tell you whether it's consolidated or fragmented by the number of companies and the market share these companies have. So you have a number of smaller companies with a little bit of market share. It's much easier to come into the market and take some market share from them. However, if you have a number of large players, you would find that you can take a different strategy. Just going on them one-on-one, especially if it's a fundamental science company like a biopharma, is going to be very difficult. You may have to consider other aspects in terms of partnerships and in terms of other ways that you can engage with the market to take some market share. As well as looking at how fragmented the market is, you also want to look at what the customers are saying about those competitors. From that, you may identify a niche that they haven't considered. And even though that market might be very concentrated with big players, they may not be listening to the customers in an optimal way and be able to come in and find a niche within this industry and carve out something for yourself. Once you're able to look externally in terms of what the market landscape is like, then you're able to determine internally whether you've got the resources and capabilities to launch a product into that market as well. So there's both the external factors of what the competitive landscape is, what the customers are saying about the competitors, and as well as what you're able to actually deliver against that. Now, the third aspect of market analysis is understanding industry trends. So, for example, a trend right now is the incorporation of AI in many industries, almost universal, and certainly that's going to touch many deep tech industries, particularly healthcare and the biotech industry. So how do you know whether you're at the front of the trend or you're lagging behind? Now, industry market reports are incredibly useful and valuable, but they may be prohibitive in terms of cost for you to access, especially if you're part of a small company. So what else can you do? Well, there's other ways to get information. After all, these market research reports do come from a lot of public information. For example, public companies have reports to shareholders, or there's filings to the SEC in the United States, 10Ks or 10Qs, where it tells everyone about their investment strategy and how the market's gone in that company for the year and where they're putting the money into. Other aspects is looking at where private equity is putting this money, venture capital, as such forth. Seeing press releases about where the money is flowing is certainly another aspect you can use to bring the pieces of the puzzle together. Now, it's really important, just because you see a lot of money going in a certain direction, you don't necessarily want to follow all that money, right? You want to be in what's called a blue ocean strategy, where it's not a crowded market. So certainly look at where the trend is going, but don't follow the herd. You really got to look at the first two aspects, what the customers are saying about the market and where the concentration of the competitors are. From that, you can establish an all-important niche that you can come into and really do well, and potentially even time it well to the market in terms of the investment money flowing through. Now, I said at the beginning of this video, there's an extra bit of information that's often overlooked. And it does come back to a consistent theme that I sort of mentioned here about being customer-centric. Now, customer-centric is, of course, involves empathy. At the end of the day, when we're looking at what a customer is saying, we've got to reconsider the individual. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet or points on a graph or a cohort A versus B versus C. It's really someone's parent, someone's child. And what we're ultimately serving, any industry involving deep tech, whether it's biotech, where I'm in, health tech, whether it's in materials science, whether it's in computer science, we're ultimately serving an individual and making their lives ideally positive, impactful in some way. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. No matter what strategy or market analysis you do, you really got to think, how am I helping that person, that individual? And that would really elevate your company from being a good company in terms of commercialization strategy, product strategy, financial strategy, to being a great company with a moral compass and a northern star to aim for. I hope you found these strategies helpful. I'm sure many of you have already implemented many of these strategies in your own career. If you have, please do comment below and share your expertise as well. We all grow as a community, particularly looking through the lens of anything involving your industry, whether it's a biotech or a deep tech company in another area. What ways can you look at engaging with customers, validating their feedback, getting that fundamental market research in terms of how fragmented the market is, as well as how do you follow the trend. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy future upcoming videos.